average guy, old stories hit high, tells of struggle and strife. Keep your head in the fight. Broken bones in the street, ain't no place for the weak. From the land of the brave, where the words cut deep. Coming next on the air now, feel the despair. Generation X, shout out, shattered somewhere. Rising up from the dark with a fire and spark. Rage and passion combined to leave a lasting mark. Coming next, shouting loud, voices from the crowd. Through the mist of...
Today on Common X, we're sitting down with someone who has been a part of American living rooms for decades. You probably first met him as Al Borland, the lovable and steady co-host on Home Improvement. But Richard Karn's career didn't stop there. He's been a host on Family Feud, acted in countless films and TV shows, and built a reputation as one of the most humble, down-to-earth figures in Hollywood. We're thrilled to welcome the man behind the flannel, the voice of calm in the chaos, and a genuine television icon, Richard Karn. How are you, buddy?
Hi. Well, thank you for that. That was very nice. I'm good.
Overcooked?
I am very good. Not overcooked. Yeah, it just when you say decades, that just reminds me of just how long I've been around.
Well, and this is so cool because I was born in Bremerton, raised in Port Orchard, Washington. I understand you're from the Seattle area. You're wearing a Seahawks shirt. This is great. I understand you graduated from UW. You're a Husky.
I'm a Husky. I had friends in Port Orchard. They owned the pharmacy there, the Shields.
Oh, wow. That's cool, man.
Cool.
Brad and Stephanie.
That's cool. Yeah, Jared was what? Go ahead and tell your story there, Jared.
Spokane and Vancouver, and then back to Spokane. Yeah. So still Washington.
Spokane, Vancouver, though. Vancouver, Washington.
Yes, down by Portland. The Portland suburb.
When you're talking the Seattle area, you gotta say Washington or British Columbia.
Yeah. No, not Canada.
So Richard, take us back, man. What was life like before Home Improvement? How did you first find yourself chasing acting?
Well, I guess I started in school, in school plays and things like that. And Seattle was a very big theater town. In a lot of ways, we had a lot of professional union houses that were able to pay a lot of a living wage for a lot of actors in the Seattle area. It's not as big as it used to be, but it's still pretty vibrant. And I just I grew up there. That's why I went to New York first. When I graduated from the University of Washington, instead of thinking that I should go to California for TV and film, I went right to New York to do theater.
Wow.
So how did you transition from theater to Hollywood and acting?
You just do it. You don't know whether you can do it, but you just do it. Yeah, I think you have to pull back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's so funny because the creators of the show, after a couple of days of rehearsing the pilot, they go, "Listen, you don't have to go from A to Z. We could have 6, 7, 8, 9 years doing this. So, just slow down. When you do a play, you're going, it's the whole arc of the play.
Right.
When you're doing a sitcom, stuff that you learned the week before, you may have to relearn again. Yeah, it's just whatever that story is being told that week."
Huh. What was your first gig?
I guess my first paying gig was doing children's theater in Crossroads, Bellevue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we did Jack and the Beanstalk. I played the giant.
That's awesome.
But I was in high school, so it was children's theater, and I got paid. I thought that was that was pretty cool. Well, wait a minute. Before that, I did the Bathhouse Theater right there on Green Lake.
Oh, wow.
And I think they paid us a little bit, and I remember doing that between 10th and 11th grade, the summer between 10th and 11th grade, which was really fun. Then I moved. Then when I got into the University of Washington, I did 2 years undergrad, and then we had to audition for the professional training program. And there were a lot of people from around the country that were auditioning for that. I couldn't give you exact numbers, but a lot of people, and they only took 16 into the
Wow.
each class. So when I got into that, to stay in that, you were required to do summer theater. If you couldn't get a summer theater job, they would let you go. There's like, well, there's no point. If you can't find summer work, you're not. This is not for you.
Right.
So then I did Cannon Beach, the Coaster Theater in Cannon Beach. I did
Hmm.
the a theater in Southbury Playhouse in Southbury, Connecticut. Uh, I did the Bumbleshoot down,
Oh, okay.
at the Seattle
Yeah,
Center
yeah.
one summer. Uh, those were all, good gigs, really good gigs. And in New York, when I got to New York, my first really big gig was a beer commercial for a Michelob beer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, got that
Interesting.
my first week in town.
Now, were you in New York for a while before you decided to move back up
I
to the
was in New
West
York for
Coast?
11 years.
Okay.
That's where I met my wife. My wife and I met doing a play off Broadway at the Writers Theater, doing a play called The Other Shore. And we actually had met the year before. We kind of pieced this together at an audition, a callback audition for a Curtis Mathis TV's commercial, and I got the commercial. She didn't, but we worked out that we were cast as a husband and wife in a commercial about a family who goes through, this huge storm, like a twister, and we're living in a double wide, and the only thing that's still working in our double wide is our Curtis Mathis TV.
Oh, wow.
So you guys have been married for a while then.
It's coming on 40 years
That's
Wow,
awesome.
that's
in
great.
October. 40 years in October. That's the Ruby um, anniversary.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Especially in
a
Hollywood.
row.
Yeah. When you landed the role of Al Borland, did you ever imagine that it would become such a cultural touchstone?
I don't know if I knew what that meant, really. I mean, this is before social media. This is before
Hmm.
we had, at our fingertips, knowledge of all sorts of different people's experiences. I mean, if I was reading the movie magazines or whatever, I might have been up on some of that stuff, but I didn't. I'd been doing theater, where we would work for 8 weeks or 3 months, and then once you got a job, you're looking for your next job while you have that job. So when Home Improvement happened, literally, I wasn't really cast for a continuing role. I was filling in for Stephen Topolowski, who
Oh, wow.
you can remember from Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The life insurance salesman.
Hmm.
He was cast in the role because they wanted somebody older and taller than Tim. They wanted a difference. They wanted, a physical difference between the two of them. And because I knew these guys, they thought I was too much like Tim. That's why they never even brought me in the first place until I called them. I
Oh,
literally called them
gotcha.
and said, "Hey, you guys are
Yeah.
auditioning for this show." And he goes, "Yeah, but yeah, okay, come in and audition for our casting director. You never know. There might be something down the road." And when Steven was doing a play in New York and couldn't get out of it for the pilot, they called me and said, "Okay, we need you to do the pilot, but just the pilot. If
Hmm.
this show gets picked up, we're going to bring Steven back on. And you know the reasons why, and this and that." And I was fine with that. I had never, I didn't have a pilot on my resume. I thought, well, that would be cool. That'll be great. That's a really good
Hmm.
thing to do. So I was grateful instead of being, you know, maybe if
Wow.
I'd had more years in California under my belt, I would have felt a little, slighted, but not in the least. These guys were my friends. I'd met them in Indiana doing a playwrights conference 3-4 years before this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
saying that, like, I couldn't imagine his show with him in it. I
yeah.
don't think it
It
would
would
have
have
been
been
as
very
good without
different.
you.
It would have
Yeah,
been very, very
would have
different.
been way
Yeah.
different.
Now you
And
you
I
mentioned
don't,
Tim. Oh, sorry.
I
Go ahead,
don't,
Jerry.
I said I don't think he could have pulled off the. I don't think so, Tim.
Yeah.
Well, that wouldn't have been there.
Right. Oh, that was you?
That was all me, baby.
That's awesome.
Dude.
Well,
That's like the best part.
I should rephrase that. It wasn't all me
Mhm.
because the writers wrote that line,
Mhm.
but it was, how do I put this? We did the pilot. We did the pilot in like April, and then they go to the upfronts, and the show gets sold. And this show is dynamite. I mean, ad agencies loved because of all the home improvement products. Yeah,
Right,
and it's a family-friendly show, and it's funny,
Mhm.
and it had so much stuff going for it. So when the show got picked up, and Steven got another job, I don't know what it was, and they called me back and said, "Listen, we might need you for the first couple episodes. We don't know." So if you go back on Hulu, it's only on Hulu now for a couple more weeks. I think it'll still be on Netflix. But if you go back and watch the first few episodes, I was a guest star.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm doing the show, and they're not writing it much. I'm just there, in the background sweeping. Tim has a butt joke, a butt crack joke, and
Right.
and all of the stuff that I was doing was environmental. Was just paying attention, being there for Tim, setting up his jokes, this and that, and the audience kind of keyed into our nonverbal relationship, and I didn't do a lot. So it was just me reacting to Tim, and it was mostly, Tim being a dick,
Yeah.
which incidentally is his last name.
Right.
His last name is Dick, Tim Allen Dick.
Right. Yeah.
But
And you giving them awkward hugs.
and a couple of, yeah, exactly.
Right.
But a couple of episodes in, Tim had a joke, and I swear to God, I thought it was something like, hey Al, do you think they call it molding because it's been in the refrigerator too long? And I did nothing.
Right.
I just let him have that laugh. I let the audience laugh at that, and I did nothing but just look at him. And then just as I'm about to say my next line, there's another laugh of me just looking at him, and I in my head I'm going, okay, I'm not milking this. I didn't mean to do that, but it's a nice laugh,
Right.
for not doing anything. And then I
Dramatic
said,
pause.
I don't think so, Tim.
Hey, Al, do you suppose they call this molding because it's made out of stuff that's been in the refrigerator a little too long?
I don't think so, Tim.
And that got a laugh. And the writers,
Classic
all of a
line.
sudden, it clicked in. They saw the relationship because they were watching the audience watch us. And all of a sudden they went, you know what? What the things we were worried about before don't even come into play. When Tim and you are on film, Tim goes thinner and you go wider. My face is round, so I go bigger. And so nothing like that bothered them, and that's why they brought me on.
That's awesome. You mentioned Tim Allen. What was it like working alongside Tim Allen, and how did your real life friendship compare to what we saw on screen?
Tim, well, I don't know. Have you ever worked with stand-up comedians?
Not
they're
really.
a tough
We've had a
nut.
few on the show, but
They're a tough nut. Yeah, some of them have very unhappy childhoods. That's why they're so funny. Tim had a healthy relationship, but he's still funny. But the relationship with Tim and Al, I remember hearing Tim say, I really wouldn't be friends with this guy. He's not somebody I would necessarily seek out to be a friend. And I went, oh, yeah, okay, I see that. Yeah, and the writers are going, well, he's a cast member and he's going to be there. So, we're just going to have to work that relationship somehow, and that's
Right.
why it was always a little awkward. Yeah, and Al's naivete in social aspects, I played that up. I think if I knew that was an 8-year gig, I might have not been so goofy. I might have tried to be
But
a little more cool, but
but
I
that
was
made
going
the show
for
though.
well,
I
yeah,
think.
it did, and the writers wrote into that, and and in a sense I got to help create that character instead of just stepping into something that was already written.
And now Bimford Tools is proud to present Tool Time with its very
and welcome to Tool Time, the show with more power. You all know my guest assistant, Tim, the assistant man, Taylor. Tim and I are going to be showing you today the proper method of installing decorative molding around the interior of a doorway. Thank you, Lisa.
Jeez, Al.
Tim, do you suppose if Little Miss Muffet went through there, instead of a doorway, they'd call it a Curgin-way?
I don't think so, Al.
Why not?
That's Al. I take my job seriously, Borland.
Okay, so, the most common decorative molding are the casings, which go around the doors and windows, and the baseboards, thank you, Tim, which go on they go
Bottom?
bottom of the walls, and the crown molding, which of course go up on,
Can I assist you with that, Al?
no thank you, Tim.
We could use a staple gun right to your Adam's apple, Al.
And you know, speaking of staple guns, do you suppose that they call it a staple gun because it shoots out staples?
Yes, I do, Al.
Well, I agree, Tim.
We were learning it along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Fans often acknowledge that you were the balance to Tim's wild energy on the show. Was that role? Did you just naturally step into that, or was it more of a character choice?
I think I did. Because early on, Tim was not comfortable thinking of himself as an actor. He had done stand-up. He sold out 10,000-seat arenas, but that's his milieu. I mean, he can command the stage and be very funny in that sense. But learning lines and having to work with off of other people, he was a little nervous about that. And it was like the first few months, it was just I felt like I'm just there to help you. I'm there to help you, and I'm not gonna give you a lot of shit. About stuff, and I don't want him to slink away. Not that he ever would, because he's got a very sense of a very strong ego. So, but that's kind of how those characters came about. Al was very supportive. It's funny because we didn't go back and do the very, very first episode till like third or fourth season. I can't remember, but we went back and we had, we would do 2 or 3 episodes and then take a week or 2 weeks off. We always had 2 weeks off for Thanksgiving. We always had 2 weeks off for Christmas. And then we'd come in and do 2 or 3 shows in a row and then another week off. Well, we did this episode where we had 2 weeks off after it. And after that show was filmed, I went backstage, shaved off my beard.
Oh, man.
Came back and we did that opening scene of Tim and I in the very, very first episode of Tool Time. So then I had 3 weeks to grow my beard back.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And, and it's like in that first episode, Tim has the sledgehammer or a big hammer and he's going, Al, would you hold this nail? And I go, yeah, sure, Tim. And then, blackout, bang, and that's the, the nucleus of how Al just kind of knows Tim isn't really a team player.
Well, it's so funny you say team player because I was laughing my butt off. I just put out a little promo to let everyone know that you were coming for the show, because I saw a clip. So it was like Tim was introducing the show, right?
Yeah.
You guys are introducing Home Improvement, and he goes, there's nothing better than my, a special someone like he's about to announce you, and then he runs to his brother Marty in the audience, and you're like,
yeah,
like, are you gonna like introduce me, or do I have time to go do my dry cleaning or something like that? It was
Yeah.
so awesome, man. Yeah, I
Well,
love
you
that
know, that
dynamic.
in that boss employee, hierarchy relationship, Al had to always find the higher ground. He had to balls up and be the bigger guy.
Yeah, it's just incredible, man. I'm glad that it worked out that way. I didn't know that that you were just going to be in the pilot, not on that show. Like Jared
Yeah,
said,
well,
I
it,
can't
it
imagine you
worked
not
out
being in there.
because we're doing the pilot, and now my wife and I, Tootie, is pregnant.
Oh
So
wow.
we don't have I don't have a regular job. I'm an apartment manager for free rent, which is kind of laughable because when I go back and think about that, I was getting free rent, which was $900 a month. So they
Wow.
were paying me $900 a month for this job.
Jeez. So no kidding. So when you got onto home improvement, you were an apartment manager?
Yeah, yeah. Well, free rent.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't beat that.
that's a good deal, especially in California.
Yeah.
How did your life change from, I mean, how was that change for you?
The first big thing that changed was about a month into the show, maybe. That now it's airing and I'm still the apartment manager. And I get a call from somebody saying, our kitchen sink is stopped up. Can you help? And so I go down there to do whatever I can. And I open it, and they've got like 12 of their friends. So you see, Al Borland's our apartment manager. And I
No
walk into
way.
this.
Al Borland had to come fix the sink.
That's awesome.
I walk into that situation, and my mind goes, "Holy, oh, you know what?
Art
I think it's
imitating
time.
life.
I think I need to quit my day job."
Wow, that's incredible, man. I can't believe that. Like, people are watching you on TV. Everybody knows this is going to be a smash. I mean, everybody knew it. I remember the first time I saw it, I was watching it with my parents in our house in Port Orchard. And so you're an apartment manager, you get called to fix a sink, and Al Borland shows up. That's awesome.
I know, it's kind of weird.
I never could have even imagined that. So, all right,
Well,
well, let's talk.
again, because we didn't have social media, I didn't understand what that kind of notoriety or recognizability meant in just everyday life, and it became kind of more and more. And at first, I was a little embarrassed by it, almost like I'm not worthy. I'm just this is a job I'm doing, and I'm having a great time, but I'm still in that kind of bubble of going to work and doing the job like I would, the plays I've been doing for the last 12 years. Not thinking that it had an effect on so many people.
Yeah.
So when somebody would call me out on the street, it was almost like, no, it's not me. I look like that guy, but it's not me. I didn't really know how to react at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could understand that. That's crazy. And this is like the sitcom era too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, when Home Improvement was in there, so I'm coming into my own. Jared and I are obviously just a little younger, and it was like you could get a childhood lesson from listening to Tim talk to the neighbor behind the fence. There was like a valuable lesson in there. And
There
do
is.
do you think
On
TV
many levels.
maintains that? Yeah.
There's that adult level, and then there's that kid level.
Mm-hmm.
The innuendo just goes right over most kids' heads.
Absolutely. Do you think that we still have that today in television?
Gosh, I think it's gotten a little more snarky.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
I think what are the shows that we're watching are mostly 20 and 30 somethings, like Friends or Seinfeld or Frasier. We're all older, without families necessarily. So what did you have with family? You had Boy Meets World. You had the Twins.
Family Matters.
Family Matters. So.
Yeah.
Well, but shows with kids now, Modern Family, maybe,
Yeah.
but those are
Modern Families.
very different lessons.
About closely. But you're right. Like that time, there were a lot of family shows in that time period. Now
Yeah.
they're all, honestly, it's a lot of reality TV now. So
Well, also, and they had stand-up comedians in the lead roles because stand-ups had a worldview that they could write around. You know, like
true.
Everybody Loves Raymond, his worldview, or King of Queens, his worldview, Tim Allen, his worldview, even Seinfeld, you know, he had his worldview. So it was an easy way to create a show around somebody that had already had a following and a point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. What about like, how'd you make that transition from like Family Feud and hosting? So like,
Yeah.
hosting family. So you go from Al Borland, Home Improvement, right?
Yeah.
Big hit, big smash. Hosting Family Feud. I mean, it's a very different energy than scripted TV. What did you learn
really
about
is.
people from running a game show? What did you learn from that?
Now here's the star of our show. He gives you big yachts and big bucks, Mr. Richard Karn.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, and welcome back to the Family Feud.
Well, you know, I was around, because of Tim, I was around a bunch of stand-up comedians and also, you know, listening to the writers. So I saw how stuff kind of evolves, you know, because Tim would just have something happen at home and then he would noodle on it all day long. And it would just be, at the end of the day, it'd be so funny. You know, it was like we were both building houses at the same time. And, you know, I would come in and say, yeah, you know, I'm in my kitchen and they're putting up the tiles, and I have these grape tiles where the grapes, you know, go down around, and he's got the grapes going up, and you know, and I go, well, you know, I think they should fall. And he goes, well, you know, that's a choice. I go, yeah, you know, but I didn't
Not really.
take that into a
It's
level
not a great choice, Tim.
where Tim would take that to a whole nother. That would be 30 minutes for Tim. You know, he would come in and go, yeah, you know, our my outdoor lights were breaking, and you know, I said to the guy, you know, the outdoor lights are breaking, and he goes, yeah, well, they're getting wet. Well, they're outdoors. Yeah, but we didn't think they'd get wet. Well, they put them next to sprinklers. Well, we didn't think they'd get that wet. You know, he would just create this kind of linear, you know, funny thing. So being around that for years was a master class in comedy and being funny. And, you know, I grew up being funny. I was class funny in high school. But I didn't do stand-up. Stand-up was a whole nother muscle that I didn't try to do. But I could be funny in plays. I could find the funny and stuff like that. So when Family Feud happened, it was like, ooh, gosh, you know, this is as close as I'm going to get to do stand-up. Because they had writers, or they had a writer, a couple of writers, but you can't write funny stuff because you don't know what people are going to say.
Right.
You have to
pretty
work.
live.
You have to work off the audience and the person and whatever they say in the moment.
Yeah.
You can't have somebody in your ear going, "Oh, say this." You know, that just doesn't work. So I just did it.
And no horse.
And no horse.
You're a cowboy. What are you going to ride?
A bicycle.
A bicycle. There you go. Okay. Clint Eastwood is like riding a bicycle with the big wheels, right? Yeah. Okay, if it's there, you're still alive. If not, the Richardsons get a chance to steal his bicycle.
You know, it's like you don't know whether you can until you're actually up there trying to do it. And I had a safety net that if I couldn't think of something funny, we just play the game. I'd come back to the game and I'd let that funny thing go by. But, you know, 8 times out of 10, I would come up with funny stuff.
Yeah, it was incredible.
I just
man.
couldn't
I
remember
loved
it because you're in the moment, and
Right,
it passes quick.
Yeah, and I loved the energy, man. Like running out on stage, you know, like that traditional Family Feud.
Well, you know, I replaced Louis Anderson.
Yeah,
Louis was so big, he couldn't move from the podium.
right. He was a bigger guy. Yeah,
And his comedy is very funny, but it takes time. So a lot of his comedy just never got there because it took so much time to get there, you know, to build up to it. And my mind, after doing 8 years of a sitcom, I'm going, okay, I've got 19 minutes. Richard Dawson had 22 minutes. So he could look like he's, lounging around, having fun and going off on tangents. I had 19. I had to speed up in areas so I could slow down in other areas to take advantage of wherever that comedy might be. So that was where my mind was working. And, and it was fun to do. I really, really enjoyed it. And I tell this story because I made fun of Family Feud when I was in college in theater school. Kevin Moriarty and I, we would like make fun of Richard. We get serving sausage, and we would like think of the most ridiculous things we could think of. Show me chicken necks, or whatever. We, just weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 30 years, give or take, and I'm doing an episode with the NASCAR drivers and their pit crews against their pit crews.
Yeah.
Parts of a chicken come up, and and I'm in my head, I'm going, okay, wing, breast, leg, okay. And one of the pit crew guy goes, chicken necks.
Oh wow!
And all of that memory from 30 years, just it's like fast forwards in my head, and I've got like nanoseconds to respond.
Right.
And all I did was, under my breath, I went, "All right, Kev, this one's for you. Show me chicken necks," and it was up there. It actually was up there.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah, real
That's
life,
cool.
full circle.
So did any of those moments from hosting stick with you, basically, right? Something funny or surprising is there something funny or that like your fans might not know about?
Well, we had a family where the mother had 29 kids.
Wow. 29, dude. We've got
That's
5.
a lot.
Like I thought
That's a lot.
We got the biggest soccer
Yeah.
team.
And
29.
There was the 5 that they chose to be the representative of the family. The one on the end kept getting further and further, more and more. And then during one of the breaks, she follows me into the elevator up to my dressing room. She goes, "I don't think my family likes me." It's like she was kind of off meds or something. I don't know what, but she was like,
way.
she was really upset. She said, I don't know what to do. I don't think they're on my side. I don't think my family respect, and I'm
Oh no.
alone in an elevator with this poor woman, and all I can think of is no. She's like, they chose you out of 29 kids.
Yeah.
You're one of the chosen. You should be fine with this. That was a scary moment because it wasn't that I was scared for my life, but it was a tense kind of real anxiety packed moment.
That is very real. Is it okay if I ask you if you've ever had an epic stage fail? I kind of had asked some musicians and actors that stuff in the past.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't not have a fail.
Right.
Otherwise you're lying.
Right.
And you're lying to yourself. It wasn't an epic fail, but one of the summer theaters that I did, I got to play the Foreigner, Charlie in The Foreigner, and I got to play Cornelius in The Matchmaker, which is the stage version of Hello, Dolly. And I really wanted to play those roles, but to play those roles, I also had to play in Sound of Music, I had to play the dad, and sing Edelweiss. And I think I was an epic failure there, but I did it. I just wasn't really great at it. I didn't feel like the audience, got the most of me being that role. But I did it. I've gone up on lines. I literally went up on a line where it changed 20 jokes.
Oh wow.
Oh.
I said something wrong, and in my head I'm going, "Oh yeah, well that joke's gone. Oh, that joke's gone too. That joke's gone."
Oh no.
And so in the moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary. That is scary. My very first job, I told you, was a Michelob beer commercial,
Yeah.
and I played
Right.
the guy who has met the woman. And I'm on the street in New York City, walking down the street, and the director, is and I'm only talking to the director. I don't talk to anybody else. I'm talking to the director, and he's going, "Okay, we're just gonna film this. We got people going by. You're walking towards the camera. Okay, your line is this time. It's for sure. Okay, and action. This time it's for real. Cut. Okay. You said this time it's for real. The line is this time is for real. I did. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. And action. This time it's for sure. I must have done 15 takes.
Oh wow.
wow.
I was so in my head, so not an epic fail, but this is my first job, and I'm like taking way more time than I needed to.
Now, do you feel that is something that kind of goes away over time, like to aspiring actors or artists that, like what you said, kind of like fumbling lines and stuff
No,
like that?
I don't think
No?
it goes away. In fact, I actually turned down a play earlier this year because I didn't think I could remember those lines. It was a
Wow.
big role, and it wasn't a role that I really, it didn't sing to me. I didn't. I was replacing somebody. I was replacing George Wendt. Actually, this is before he got ill enough to, he passed away this year.
Mhm.
But they asked me to come in and do the job instead of George, and I'm reading and I said, this isn't really me, and I don't think I can remember that many lines.
Yeah, that's got
And
to
so
be.
I shied away from that. I go back and kick myself. It's like, come on, man up. You can do this. You just have to work harder. But I didn't want to leave the actors on stage out there, with me. Maybe I'm going to have an earwig where they feed me lines. They did. Angela Lansbury had that on Broadway. But
Oh, really?
it's not. It's the other people on stage. You just throw the timing of the show off
Mhm.
a little bit.
That's interesting. So you've been in the spotlight for quite a while. You've kept this cool, like clean and humble reputation. How did you manage to stay grounded through everything?
Well, Cooper, my son, was born the first season of Home Improvement. I mean, if that doesn't ground you,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you got something else going on. So, and also, I was in New York during my 20s. If I'd gotten Home Improvement in my early 20s, I might not be alive. I don't know what I might have done with all that extra money.
Yeah.
The possibilities. But I was 35 when Home Improvement hit. So, my first thought was, okay, we're putting money away for a house, for college.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go out and,
Blow it on
Yeah.
a Ferrari.
yeah.
Kind of more, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of more prepared for it.
So there is that. And then, I mean, there were certain roles where I just went, God, that's so icky. I didn't really want to. And, if you're not the lead in a movie, you've got to do this stuff that is, is the moral of the story. And you're the reason why there has to be a moral, or you're the bad guy. And there are really fun bad guys, but the majority of the bad guys are just, run of the mill. They're
Mhm.
stupid so that the other person can claim it or call them on it. And there were a lot of things I just didn't want to do. I didn't want to be in that situation and live with that.
Looking back, is there a role or project that you feel didn't get enough recognition or something that you're especially proud of?
It's not about getting, kudos or whatever, because I did some really great theater that I'm very proud of. I mean, not as many people saw it, but I'm on stage, 8 times a week and loving those 2 hours and just enjoying it. And, and that's very rewarding. That's very satisfying. There was a role there was something I turned down, which I wish I hadn't. My wife, who consequently ended up playing one of Jill's sisters. She played Carrie
Right,
because
on
she
Home
looks a
Improvement, yeah.
little bit like Pat. And when I got the job and Tootie came in, and the director's going, "Oh my God, you're so much like Pat. In a couple of years, we're going to have her sisters on. We're going to bring you in to audition for her sisters." So, but my wife's cousin is Jay Roach, who did, well, he's got a movie out now, The Roses. He did all the Austin Powers. He did
Oh, wow.
all the Fockers. And the first Austin Power, he calls me up and goes, "Hey, listen, I got this little role. I thought maybe you might have fun with it." And and he sends it to me, and I'm in a bathroom stall, and this character, Austin Powers, is in the next stall, who hasn't gone to the bathroom in 30 years. And I'm like, whoa, courtesy flush. Come on, give a guy a break,
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh, that's weird. And I didn't get it because we didn't know what Austin Powers was.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, come on, Jay, that's a weird thing to offer me. But if I just done it and laughed about it, I wish I had done that. That's that's a regret.
Well, it's got to be hard to know, right? It's got to be hard to know, like, how.
Well, my
something's
early part of my career was all based on yes. You just say yes, whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, I took the job in Indiana for $100 a week stipend.
Oh, wow.
And went, left New York for 2 weeks to go to Indiana for $100. And that's where I met the producers of Home Improvement.
Wow.
So you just don't know. So when you say no later on in your career, it's coming from a different place, and you realize, well, come on, maybe I should be doing this, because you never know what's going to come from that.
That's an interesting perspective that, like, we probably wouldn't see, just watching.
Well, the life is built on our experiences and on what we do and what we take from it. I went to traffic school and sat next to this woman who was an agent, and she told me about the auditions for Home Improvement. And I'm in traffic school for 8 hours.
Traffic school.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a traffic ticket driving home I was doing Shakespeare's Scottish play. And, the bad luck, surrounding that play. I figured, well, here's my bad luck. I got a traffic ticket. I'm going to go to traffic school so my insurance doesn't go up. And I sit next to this woman who tells me about the auditions for Home Improvement.
What are the chances of that?
1,000,000,000 to 1.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go back on something big in your life and you piece together all the little things that kind of came together because to put you in that moment or to put you in the way of that, you go, wow, that's, there's a lot of things I could have missed.
That's incredible. Wow. What advice would you give? Oh, sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so if you hadn't pursued acting, what else do you think you would have done? Or do you think that acting was it? That was all you're going to do? Or did you have a backup plan, I guess?
I did not have a backup plan. I did not know what else I was capable of, because I really enjoyed being on stage. But that meant, not making a lot of money, living from job to job. But, at 19, 20, 21, 22, you don't know what that actually means.
Yeah.
Right.
Until you're in your mid to late 20s and you're going, oh, yeah, that's what that means. Yeah, but, I went through 2 years of undergrad, 3 years graduate. If I'd stayed one more quarter, I could have gotten a master's so I could teach. But I was like, no, I'm going to New York. I don't have time. I don't have time for a master.
Man, yeah.
So.
What advice would you give to the next generation of actors about handling fame and staying authentic? Same you have.
Well, most of that advice can be found online now. It's like,
I guess that's
you just,
true.
hey, Google.
ChatGPT, right?
How do you handle fame? And there's
right
300 interviews of all sorts of different people figuring that out. But I would say to them, be in the moment, pay attention. You never know where inspiration is going to come from. Read, read a whole bunch of stuff, because you will not have those experiences. The experiences that you find, okay, in movies and TV, in books, are not necessarily going to be yours, and you can learn from that, and you can put that into your repertoire of emotion or callback for when you're in a situation where, what is it like to murder somebody? I haven't murdered somebody in a long time. How did I feel back then?
Right.
Oh man.
So all of those things help.
That sounds great, man. And to kind of experience it too, right? Less saying no or getting stuck on yourself, just kind of get out there, huh?
Yeah. And take jobs, take chances. Obviously I didn't take a chance this year by turning that job down, but I'm still learning. The next thing comes along, I might take it.
I hope you do, man. I just
well, I did an episode of Tim's show a couple weeks back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he's doing, the new show he's doing, Shifting Gears.
Right.
How was that?
They brought
as
us
you
back.
or as Al or what?
Well, again, this was one where, they offered us this job, and then I read the script and went, well, that's pitiful. Our characters are these guys that have been dumped by their spouses or whatever, and they haven't been able to move on. And, and it's a lesson for Tim to move on, basically. And it was me, Debbie Dunning, the Tool Time girl, and Hector from Last Man Standing.
Oh, okay.
But Hector opted out, and they brought in Pat Richardson. So it was the three of us from Home Improvement.
Hey, what are you doing? Wrong set. Shifting gears. It's over here. Come on. Keep moving, people. Let's go. Come on.
Okay.
Keep it moving.
In this kind of makeshift, we sit at a bar and we talk about, our wives left or our husbands left or this happened, and it was fun. I'm glad I took it.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Look forward to seeing that. Definitely.
Yeah, it drops on October 1st.
Awesome. Well, everybody get out there and watch that. That'll be amazing.
Well, when does your podcast drop?
This one's going to drop in a couple weeks. I think I was estimating.
Yeah, next Sunday. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, next Sunday.
October 1st is when the first episode back of Shifting Gears happens.
Okay. Well, and obviously too, like we love doing well, I do, I guess, the TikTok and the Instagram and all of that, getting the socials out there. And we love we'll turn this into a promotional reel at the end. And I think everyone's going to love it. So everyone's going to know about October.
Okay.
For sure.
All right. So you guys are Generation X. You're not millennials.
Oh yeah.
No.
We're Gen X.
We're Gen X, yeah.
Common sense from Generation X.
It's supposed
That's what
to be,
we're trying to bring about.
common sense from Generation X, because we kind of saw the world kind of beefing a little bit, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but people having, kind of opposite opinions or whatever, kind of bickering amongst themselves. And it seemed like the generation that we had, although quiet, we didn't always like use a voice. We kind of depended on everybody else to do something for us, while we're at home capturing like who we're going to be watching Home Improvement,
Right.
But we thought, let's get everybody back together, have some common sense from.
Well, I got a millennial joke for you.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know if you want to make fun of millennials. They might be your audience.
Hey,
sure.
we've got elder
off
millennials
limits.
in the audience, but go for it, man. This
We've
is an
gotten the
unfiltered
boomers
show.
already, so.
Okay, a couple of millennials are sitting there, and the one is like really down, and the guy goes, "Dude, what's the matter?" He says, "Oh, my great aunt passed away a couple weeks ago, and oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I know. It's just well, she left me $500,000." And I go, "Oh wow, well, I'm so sorry for your loss." He says, "Is that why you're upset?" He goes, "No. It's like my uncle passed away last week." "Oh gosh, that's like 2 weeks of it. Wow, I'm so sorry." He says, "Yeah, well, he left me another $500,000. Because really, well, I'm so sorry for your loss. Is that why you're upset? He goes, no, I'm upset because this week, nothing.
That's awesome.
That's wild, dude. That's wild. That's
funny.
a good one.
All right, so you're wearing the 12th man jersey.
Yes.
What do you think this year?
Well, not only that, but here, let me.
Oh, nice.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Number 12, Richard Karn.
That's right. They had me do a video last year for the in-house Megatron, and we did a stadium improvement.
Nice.
And they went way back to where they had the mascot. Yeah, you know, what's his name?
What? I've drawn a blank. Do you remember Hawk?
He's a Seahawk, but his name is Blitz.
Oh,
Blitz.
Blitz.
I was thinking like Blaze for some
and
reason.
Blitz is and we go way back to the Kingdom. So we're renovating the Kingdom, right?
Okay.
And I'm going, okay, well, you know, it's like we have to add more bathrooms, you know, because people are going to the bathroom a lot more. So we got to add that, porta potties and paint and this and that, and then and we're doing this bit, and then cut to we see the Kingdom, birds are chirping, and then all of a sudden you hear and they've blown up the Kingdom.
Right.
And I look at Blitz and I go, well, I wouldn't have gone that way.
Right.
So it was a good bit.
That is a good bit.
That new stadium's definitely an improvement, though.
It really is.
A couple games.
It's beautiful.
Man,
and
it's loud.
Well, they built it to be loud.
Boom.
Yep.
Yeah.
They put that into the acoustics of the floor plan.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people miss getting hit in the head with a ceiling tile or whatever.
Ceiling tile coming down from the
dome. Those were coming down. I don't know.
Yep, I remember.
I don't know if anyone ever got hit.
Holes in the ceiling. The O's game postponed because tiles were coming down. 2.5 by 4 feet tiles. They weigh about 15 pounds.
The Kingdom was caving in, and we saw it fall right back here, about 10 rows back, and it took out 2 rows. And there's another piece up there looking like it's getting ready to fall too. So it's just a matter of time for the whole Kingdom to start crumbling.
But I remember.
Well, that's why we lost
up
the
there.
Sonics.
Yeah.
We lost the Sonics because we didn't want to pay for another stadium.
Yeah, Key Arena. Yeah.
Dude,
I remember that. I'd be like, oh man, Ken Griffey Jr. is getting ready to come up to bat. I got to see Ken Griffey Jr. And I'm like looking, but what's going to happen? Because they were
really
pretty bad there in the end. So another thing I wanted to ask
any
you,
games? Oh, sorry.
I did. I usually get up for at least a couple of games a year. That weekend, I saw Huskies play on Saturday. I saw Seahawks play on Sunday, and literally, on Friday night I could have gone to see Roosevelt play.
Oh wow!
But I didn't think of that.
Right.
Oh man. So kind of with the home improvement, going back to home improvement a little bit, you've actually written some books too, haven't you?
Well, I wrote a book on the remodel of my house.
So is that like a real life passion?
Well, the subtitle is How I Remodeled My Home for Just Under 3 Times the Original Bid.
Yeah.
So, I had 101 change orders, but when we were remodeling, I had a well-paying job. So there were little things that I could do that wouldn't wreck the budget, and not everybody, not everybody has that. So, I in my book, there were things, to look out for, pitfalls and stuff like that. And the domino effects of fixing one thing that all of a sudden triggers fixing 4 or 5 other things.
Yeah.
So I wrote that book. And then a couple years later, I wrote a book on doing stuff around the house, things like that. I could write a book about my life, but I don't know about that.
Right.
I don't want to go there yet.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, buddy. I'm with you on that. All right, we've reached a portion of the show that we like to call Jared's Five.
Jared's Five.
Uh-oh.
All right. So I ask every guest four of the same questions, and then one's from a previous guest for our next guest, and then you get to ask a question for our next guest that I asked them. So our last guest was a DB Cooper expert, but Ian kind of set him up with a guest that we were going to have.
I put the wrong guest was going to be next,
Yeah,
so he asked the question to the wrong guy. What do we do?
Yeah. So I don't really have a question for you from our last guest. So
I guess we could relate the question, though, right? We could relate it. It was supposed to be for Dr. Gerald Harn, right? And he was asking him what it was like to be the doctor of history, because this guy's been an academic for so long, and he has
he's written
history.
36 books.
Yeah, 36 books. So this guy's pretty loaded in the academia world. So I guess we could ask that kind of with your profession, though, right? Want to change it up like that, Jared?
Sure.
Well, I can tell you what it would be like to be, the professor of history.
Yeah,
go for it.
It's a very delicate situation now.
Oh, yeah.
People are not trusting history.
No.
Things that have been written down, in stone, in brass, and now they're questioning it. It's like, I don't know. Is that really how it happened? People are changing it, and not for great reasons.
Right.
So that's scary when you start changing your worldviews based on lies.
Yeah.
But are they lies? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Somebody's truth, maybe, or they believe it's their truth.
Truth is relative.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So what is your favorite movie of all time?
Man. I can go back and watch 3 Days of the Condor over and over and over again. I watched Wizard of Oz over and over again as a kid. I really, really enjoyed The Godfather, but I can't go back and watch it again. It's just, there are certain things, there are certain movies that you can go back, like Galaxy Quest. I can go back and watch that over and over again.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
that's a hilarious one. I love that.
So
one.
So there's a few choices.
Yeah. All right. Growing up, what was your favorite cartoon?
I would have to say Flintstones, because it was on prime time when I was young. It was prime time. It wasn't a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, that's crazy for a cartoon too.
And I didn't understand, that it was the Honeymooners. It was just it was funny, and I liked that. But the Warner Brothers stuff, Scooby-Doo, when I realized that they were one of the few cartoons that had guest stars.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Cher or the Globetrotters all of a sudden are on the cartoon. And that's harping back to the early Warner Brothers cartoons when they had Bogart, or they would have weird guest stars.
Yeah, I remember the Globetrotters, man. That was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, what is one thing that people don't know about you that maybe they should?
One thing that people should know about me. Well, a lot of people don't know I'm from Seattle. They think whatever town I'm in, that's where I'm from. They go, "Hey, what are you doing here? Are you from here?" Especially if I'm in Michigan, they think I'm from Michigan. But growing up in Seattle, I'm now lived in California longer than I grew up in Seattle. But Seattle's still my hometown. I was a wide receiver in high school football.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. What if you could go back in time and tell your teenage self the one thing, what would it be?
Now you're getting into my new worldview
Wow.
of not screwing with the past. There are a lot of movies out there now about the past and how, you know, if and when time travel or shifting back through whatever happens, who knows? I mean, it's reality, unreality, it's science fiction. But if I went back and told myself something, there are so many other things that might not have happened.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as much as I would like to say, go back and buy Microsoft,
Right. That would
I
completely
might-
change who you are today.
I might never have gotten where I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot on this show. Actually, that's crazy. That hits home for us, man. That resonates.
Well, there's a really cool show streaming right now called The Lazarus Project.
Oh, that's a great
Okay.
one. I just finished that one.
Yeah. And well,
Yeah.
you see what happens when things change. All of a sudden you have all these different realities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it gets into like, you know, quantum physics and everything else, talking about, well, are we living in a simulation? Is every choice that you make spinning off a new universe?
well, when you have a handful of billionaires, soon to be maybe trillionaires, running the shop, maybe it's already happened.
True.
I still got chills from when we had Dr. Jared Ball on, and he was talking about, he's a professor at Morgan State University in Baltimore. And he was talking about taking his students out to the stadium there where they play or whatever. And he said it seats about 10,000. So it's not a big stadium, you know, but he was explaining to them, like, take a look out here and tell me if you could even see 800 people in the stadium, you know, to kind of make that realization of, you know, how many more of us than there are of the wealthy 1% or 3% or whatever, you know. And that's a pretty big gap. That's crazy.
Yeah, 800 people own 90% of the wealth in the United States there.
Yeah.
That you couldn't even make them out in the stadium.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
It is. And Seattle seems to have their fair share.
Yeah, definitely.
But we also had a lot of funny shows growing up. We had, you know, JP Patches and Brakeman Bill and Captain Puget and Stan Borson. They were all aimed at kids. Local shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the theater there in Seattle too. I remember my parents taking me to see Peter Pan or something when I was a kid. You know, it was a nice experience going through Seattle, and I haven't been to Seattle myself in quite a while. I fear that's changed. It's been
Well,
so
you
long
should go.
since I've
You
been
should
there.
go down to the waterfront. The waterfront's really, really nice now.
Nice. So yeah.
Well, they took the viaduct out. They took 99.
Oh, so you don't have to see all that?
It's all gone.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Should go back there and see that.
As long as the gum wall is still there, I'm good.
Yeah, gotta have the gum wall. For sure. And what was that? What was that statue? Whatever, the troll or whatever?
Under the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's 10 more trolls around Washington now.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks so much for setting some time.
Hey, wait.
Oh, sorry.
He's got to ask the next question for our next guest.
I am so sorry, Richard.
Okay. Well, here's the we covered this in our conversation. Can you go back to the one pivotal moment that changed everything for you? And was it one thing or was it a series of things?
Okay.
That's going to be a really good one. And our next guest is Dr. Gerald Harn. So I know that for sure.
Okay. Wow.
So that's going to be a good one for him.
He's
Absolutely.
a doctor.
Yeah.
So you got to trust him.
Yeah, he's a professor. Yeah, he's been at it for a long time. Yeah, I'm dying to hear his answer on that. That's great. Um, and I'm sorry about that, Richard. Thanks so much for setting time for us on your Saturday. Really appreciate it. It's been
You're
an
welcome.
absolute honor having you on the show. From Al Borland to Family Feud and beyond. I mean, you've shown us that humility and kindness can make just as big of an impact as any role. Thank you for spending time with us today and sharing your journey. We can't wait to see what you do next.
Yeah, me too. Take care, guys.
All right.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast, Common X with Jared and Ian. We really appreciate you guys and would love your support. So make sure you click that subscribe or like button or follow us on all our social media platforms and on YouTube and Spotify, because that would really help us out. And that helps us bring more episodes to you guys every week, and hopefully from, content that you guys want to see. So reach out, TikTok, YouTube, leave comments. If there's anything that you guys want to see or any guests that you want us to try and get on, let us know. We do have a good lineup coming. So thank you again. We love you guys. Thanks for your support. And we'll see you next time. And remember, common sense isn't that common. So that's why we're bringing common sense back from Generation X.